Hello, everybody. I don't know who I've got. I've got somebody. Now, I did invite people the other day on Instagram to come chat with me, but I don't know how that works on here. So we'll try. Now, I'm hoping that somewhere along the line I'm going to see some questions. Somebody give me a question. What have I got to tell you? I always say that every week, don't I? I'm getting very, very predictable. I've been on a very long walk today. 11 kilometres I went with my dogs, and so couldn't get up here in a hurry if that mouse run across the floor. What else? Free antenatal classes are still running every Saturday and every Monday. So if anybody is struggling or stressed that they're not going to get any of their antenatal education, please sign up. That is completely free, and it's a 2-hour class. You get to know lots and lots of stuff. And yes, there are other classes that you need to pay for, but they're not going to break the bank. They're all 2.5 hours long, and they're only a tenner. I'm saying only a tenner. I know it's an expensive time, but they are not, and you can pick and choose, so it's not too bad. Laura, Jazz, I need some questions, lovelies. I'm just going to have a look on my past questions. Hey Louise, only 3 minutes to join live. Sorry guys, I think we're having the same old problem again with questions because I just haven't got any questions here from you. Let me just ask them. Sorry guys. Well, this is no good, is it? Me just sitting here babbling on as normal. You are all very lovely though. You're sitting there waiting patiently for me, aren't you? Here we go. I've got one here. Can where you feel hiccups indicate where baby is positioned? I was feeling them quite high before, and now they seem to be really low. I don't think you would be able to work it out. No, I don't. I think it probably is. I'm trying to think. I've never been asked that question, Samantha. Well done. I've never been asked that. You flummoxed me. You absolutely flummoxed me. I suppose it could be an indicator of where the baby is, but what I don't think babies, depends on how early you are in your pregnancy. So say you are 27, 28 weeks, your baby can flip from breech to back again and be rolling around all over. So yes, I suppose it can, in answer to the question. You absolutely flummoxed me there. Well done, Samantha. I like it when people ask questions I don't know the answer to. But yeah, I think unless you're like, if you're 38 weeks, 39 weeks, I think then it's going to be, they're not going to be switching position is what I'm trying to say, badly. Right, I have been trying for a baby for 4 months now, and so far no luck. My cycle is anywhere from 30 to 34 days usually, so I was expecting ovulation around 16 days. This is what I've been going off for the last few months, tracking everything on Flow. But today I took an ovulation test for the first time, and I'm on day 10 of a cycle, and it was positive. Has anyone else had ovulation this early with a cycle of 30-ish days? The first thing I would say to this lady is that it's really easy for me to sit here and say 4 months is not a long time, but I sometimes think that when we're following all of these different cycles and looking at these different apps and all that, we get ourselves into a real heightened sense of stress. And so like now you might be thinking, oh, well, I've been trying to at the wrong time. So I think the trick is just try all the time. That's what the old-fashioned way 17 years ago, when my daughter's there doing the ironing, it was just like you do it all the time. You didn't turn your telly on. It's like, right, that's it, we're having a baby. We didn't have apps and ovulation tests. Well, I think ovulation kits were around, but it was like you bought them if you were really, and I don't think even then thinking about it, we even thought about the time in the month. I think it was just like you were actively trying. So I do think sometimes the old-fashioned way of just get on with it. It might help.
I'm very nervous to say the word.
I don't want to say the word. Stop.
Yeah, but Mum, I'm sorry, but in geography, they talk about it. Oh, it's horrible.
Well, you're in the wrong bloody school if they're talking about in geography.
No.
What are you talking about in geography
for?
for?
It's my birth rate. Because I didn't have condoms.
Oh, you want a baby. Can you naturally induce labour? Well, there's a couple of theories. You could try doing the thing that got you into the sorry mess in the first place that we've just been talking about, that we talk about in geography. That is thought that it could do. Nipple stimulation is also thought to be a contributor, so you could do some colostrum harvesting. That might help. I would steer away from things like eating lots of weird foods, pineapples, all that. We think that you'd probably need to eat about 12 pineapples and their cores to actually go into labour, so I would steer clear of that one. The one thing that is supposed to be good for to eat is dates. That is supposed to, there is some quite good quality research that suggests that it can reduce your significance of bleeding, tearing, and possibly going overdue. So dates are maybe one. I'm looking recommendations for baby powder milk for a newborn. Baby isn't here. I'm just trying to be organised and looking for recommendations. Okay, really good question with a really easy answer, actually, in the fact that the World Health Organization stipulate that all infant formulas have to have a list of ingredients. They've all got to have them in, because the World Health Organization has studied and worked out as much as possible how can we replicate breast milk as near as we possibly can so that it's as good for babies as it can possibly be. And so there is a list of ingredients that all formula milks have to contain. So fundamentally, they're all the same. So I would just go with whichever one you sort of like the look of, is convenient to you. I wouldn't go with the most expensive just because you think it's the best, because actually they're probably all the same. And one thing to bear in mind is if it says on the front of the packet, contains, I don't know, oligo, some long word that nobody knows what it is, there's two things to think about. One, if you look on the back of all the packets, it's probably in all of them, or if it was that beneficial to your baby, it would be law that it had to be in there. So there you go. So I don't recommend a particular powder over another because they're all the same. Apart from Hip Organic, because it's organic, it's slightly different. And I'm not backed by Hip Organic. And if anybody does come onto my infant feeding class, there is a prize, because I would choose Hip Organic, but I'm not going to tell you why, because it's one of the things that I ask in the class, but nobody's ever got the right answer as to why. But it's nothing to do really with the milk or the fact it's organic. There you go, that's the only tips I'm giving you. Right, next question. I'm 6 weeks pregnant today, congratulations, and really suffering with diarrhea. Is this normal? What did you do to help? Excuse me? Thank you. I wouldn't say it's normal. It's not a sign of early pregnancy as such, but it's not normal because you've obviously got an upset tummy or something like that. So I would just see how you go. Make sure you stay hydrated. If you're not feeling well at all, speak to your doctor. You probably haven't got a midwife just yet at 6 weeks pregnant, but it's not it's not one of the things that we say, oh, you may experience diarrhea. I would say you have probably got a bit of an upset tummy. Samantha, you are forgiven for throwing me the curveball of the hiccup question. Thank you very much. She just said she's sorry. I'm 14 weeks pregnant with my first baby and just found out I'm rubella non-immune despite having all my childhood vaccines. Are there any do's and don'ts should I be following? You just need to avoid any children that have got chicken pox. It is chicken pox, isn't it? It is chicken pox. Or is it measles? Got a brain freeze. Again, people would think I'm useless, wouldn't they? Let's have a look. Yeah, I think it is. Yes, varicella, commonly known as chicken pox. Is that what you said? Varicella? Yes, I think. Just avoid avoid anybody who's got the chicken pox.
So she has to avoid her child and she's.
Pardon? No, she hasn't got a baby.
Oh.
And actually, at 14 weeks pregnant, it's actually you're sort of coming out of that risk area. I'm going to follow up on this one because I'm making a right hash of this question. Let me just look at my notes on this. Yes, so measles, mumps, and rubella. I'm right. No, it's German measles. Rubella is German measles and is a serious infection that can cause problems in pregnancy. You just need to, so right now I'm getting my game head back on now. If you have been exposed, you there is something that they can give you, a medication, I believe. So I would speak to your midwife, but I'm going to put a post on this, up on this, when we get off, because I have made a hash of this question. So if we hop on, whoever's asked this lovely question, if you hop on to my Instagram page at The Honest Midwife by about 5 o'clock, I will have put all the facts up for you because I'll have found them out. I think I need to work more. How old does a baby have an immune system? Because I thought my little boy, could you just type that question again? Because it doesn't make sense. Olivia J. Rose, if you could just type it again, because I think there's a few typos in there that it's stopping me understanding. Hi Louise, do newborns need a dummy? Can you easily avoid using? I think I think all babies are individual, and I don't think there's a right or wrong about whether they should or they shouldn't. Some babies just have an incessant desire to suck all the time. What we don't want to do is to mistake that for, you know, when a baby does want feeding. So I think if you're really confident your baby's had a real full belly and it's not going through a cluster feeding phase or anything like that, and it will take a dummy, then all well and good. There is absolutely nothing wrong with giving your baby a dummy. It is recommended that you take it off them at 6 months. How, I'm not sure. My two would never take them, as much as I did try. So it wasn't that I didn't want them to have it. I remember standing there holding it into their mouths because they just wouldn't settle, but they just spat it out as soon as I took my finger off because they were awkward. But there's nothing... in terms of easily avoid using them, I think it's just a case of seeing, you've got to do what you've got to do at the time, and if you're not getting any rest and they won't settle and they'll settle without it, I would let them have one. Any ideas how long it will take for breast milk to dry up after weaning? It's been over 2 weeks now and they're still hard and sore and leaking. I feel like a cross between Dolly Parton and Dairy the cow. I fed for 2 years, but she wasn't taking much in the last month. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. So you could try putting cabbage leaves in your bra. That will relieve any pressure, and it's also thought that it may just slow the milk down a little bit. I think when you've been doing something for 2 years, well done you. It's very well established. It's going to take time for it to ebb away. I would like to ask how quickly you stopped. Did you say you've weaned off this? So over 2 weeks. So I mean, I think if you just stopped, if you've weaned away and sort of reduced one feed, then another feed, another feed. But I think if you have just stopped, then you probably are going to, it's going to be uncomfortable. If you go to your doctors, there is a drug called cabergoline, CABERLOINE, something like that, cabergoline, which they may prescribe for you, but they're a bit funny about prescribing it. But there is a drug out there that can suppress that lactation if it's really becoming troublesome, so maybe ask for that. My baby's 7 months old and still doesn't want any solids. She'll nibble away on baby wafer, spit most of it out, and then won't eat any purees or porridge. I use ready oats breakfast. I also tried brand new. Unfortunately, this is not my area of expertise, I'm afraid, so it's a bit difficult for me to answer. You've just got to keep trying. Try them with like finger foods. At 7 months old, she really should be able to have anything, so she could hold bits of carrot in her hand. So give it more as a bit of a play thing. Carrot sticks are quite good, really cooked and stuff, so that she can just mush them and just getting used to those textures in her mouth. Really what we want to do with babies is start them on a bitter vegetable diet, so broccoli trees, that sort of thing. So just getting used to playing with the food. She will take it eventually. I had an emergency cesarean in 2019. I'm due to have another planned cesarean next month. I found the recovery from the emergency really tough. I lost a lot of blood and needed blood transfusion. Any tips on how I manage recovery of a planned cesarean? I'm really anxious. Well, let me try and put your mind at rest. I had an emergency cesarean with Jack, lost 2 litres, and I recovered okay, but it was slow going. I was tired, I'd had a long labour, lots of stuff going on. When I had Isabel, which was by elective, back on my feet, no bother. I think you're very unlikely to lose the same amount of blood, so you're far more likely to feel much better than you did anyway, because you've not had that big blood loss. So you're probably going to start on a better starting block anyway. So try not to worry too much. They will be anticipating maybe a blood loss because you had it before, but I would suspect that if you had an emergency cesarean, you probably had a long labour, so that was probably why you had the blood loss. So take those 2 things out, you're probably going to fare a lot better. Hi Louise, I had a growth scan on Tuesday, 37+3. Doctor reckoned that I'm being induced at 38, 39 weeks as baby's on the 10th centile. Baby's always been in the 10th centile. I'm struggling to understand the rationale behind this, but don't want to be considered difficult if I refuse the induction. I think it's difficult to know whether, are you a little person yourself? The growth charts generally are individualized to you, and I think a baby on the 10th centile, if it's been on the 10th centile all the way through and it's following that growth, but if the fact is that it's been on a higher centile and then it's tailed off, it's very difficult for me to really advise you, because one, I can't, because I don't know your history and it's your individual case, so it's more about general stuff. But what I would do, I don't think they will ever think you're being difficult. What do you want? I don't think they'll ever think you're being difficult. I think you should go back and say, could they explain to you the rationale? Because nobody should go into any procedure not understanding the rationale behind it. You obviously understand that it's been recommended, but it's worth going back and just saying, look, can you just explain to me why you think it should be recommended? And it could be that they're just concerned about the growth tailing off. So I think it's just worth going back to have that conversation. How old does a baby have its immune system? You mean, I don't really know how to answer that. But if your baby, if your baby develops its immune system from birth, so it's not that it's born with no immune system, but it's born with an immature immune system which develops over time as it is introduced to more bacteria, and the body counters and makes its white blood cells and antibodies and stuff to deal antibodies to deal with any future exposure to that particular bacteria. So it's not right at 6 months it's got a fully developed. It develops over time, and we are all developing over time. If you think about COVID at the moment, if we were introduced to COVID, we would have the symptoms and all that, and our body would develop an antibody to it, we hope. So we develop it as we are introduced. So there's no sort of finite time that says, sorry, I was a bit thrown by that. I did that with my second, I just tried once and thought she's fine, she can have cuddles instead. Yeah, I think I'm assuming this is a dummy thing. Just trying to force it in their mouth is a nightmare. If I want a home birth, can I actually give birth in my bath instead of hiring a birthing pool? Very, very difficult on that one, because unless if you've got a freestanding bath, so you've got areas on either side, then possibly. But if you've got, like the majority of us have got a bath that's up against one wall, that makes it very, very difficult, and especially depending on which direction you're in, because believe it or not, I would not struggle, but if I went to go and deliver a baby from the left hand side, so I was like this, it would be like me trying to eat my dinner with my knife and fork in the wrong hand. So, and if your taps are at the wrong end, obviously you're not going to want to lie with your head on the taps. So this is one of the things that could make it inhibitive. Secondly, you may not be able to open your pelvis enough. So I would say I would struggle with them as a midwife. I would struggle delivering a baby like that. And I think as well, the position is just, you're just not going to have enough room. So I would say no, I would try and hire a pool. Where did we go? Where did we go? Can you please explain what the first baby movements feel like? I'm 15 weeks and sure I felt movement like fluttering. You may have felt some flutterings, like butterfly wings. It is a little bit earlier, but some people do feel them early. Once baby gets a bit more established and you start to get towards that 20-week plus mark, you will one day just feel this almighty wallop, and it's like, that was my baby. It's like there is no doubt it wasn't hiccups, it wasn't wind, it was like I've just been kicked from inside. And it's not, it doesn't hurt, it's just like, oh, I felt that. So yeah, it start off with little fluttering movements that could be a bit of wind, and then it may well develop into a big long kick. Oh, you've put me through my paces this afternoon. Right, I am going to do that post for you guys on the rubella. Let me make a note of that. That will be up shortly. I do apologise for my fumbling. It's probably because I've walked so far today. That's my excuse, not because I'm naff. I hope you have enjoyed it. I've answered all the questions. Back next Tuesday as always. And there you go. If anybody wants to sign up to my free antenatal class, please do so. They're on Saturday morning and Monday evenings, and you can do so by the link that's just there for you. You've all been fab as always, and I shall see you all again soon. Take care.